Maybe it is something primitive in humans that makes us conjure tales of invincible warriors who transcend physical limitations, from Achilles to Robin Hood. Human mythology is filled with stories of soldiers whose skills surpass what is humanly possible. Thus, it was only a matter of time before these super soldiers made their way to the pages of a comic book. Some of these super soldiers have become household names, while there are many more who are hidden deep within comic lore. However, whether hero or villain, Marvel or DC, the trope of super soldier is something that has fascinated audiences for a very long time. In today's Marvelous video, we will take a deeper look at the top 25 super soldiers across various franchises to see how super they are. But before we move ahead, please like and subscribe so that we keep bringing such content to our Marvelous viewers. Captain America. Maybe the most famous of them all, Steve Rogers, the quintessential American war hero, needs no introduction. It is a story that most of us know by heart. A frail and impoverished Rogers tries to join the U.S. Army during World War II, but he is rejected multiple times. However, the program director of Project Rebirth, Dr. Abraham Erskine, notices the young Rogers and is impressed by his infallible ideals and moral compass, and injects him with super soldier serum. This serum ends up permanently enhancing Captain's all bodily functions, turning him into a peak human specimen. All of Rogers' physical attributes are at the very border of human capabilities. He can bench press about 1,000 pounds as a warm-up, and can keep up a sustained 30 miles per hour sprint as long as he needs to. The serum also enhances his mental capabilities, allowing Steve to process information at a much faster rate. Owing to this, Captain America has mastered most known martial arts and is also an impeccable tactician. Given this skill set, it's no wonder that the Captain has been Marvel's greatest success in both the comics and the silver screen. Wolverine. Wolverine has always been one of the tragic ones, cursed with a great skill for violence. The Canadian berserker is probably the most well-known of the X-Men, though he is a mutant by birth, boasting an insane ability to heal almost all wounds and feral retractable claws in each hand. People often get that James Howlett has always been a soldier, forced to abandon his family due to his bestial nature. James adopted the name Logan and practically grew up between wars, bouncing from conflict to conflict. Somewhere along the way, Logan was hunted down by authorities and made to unwillingly become a part of the Weapon X program. Pumped full of Thorazine and trapped in a tank, Logan was then subjected to an excruciating procedure that bonded every inch of his skeleton, including his claws, to the indestructible metal adamantium. Despite undergoing intense brainwashing, Logan managed to escape in a fugue state. For years, he wandered the earth as a lonely and vengeful spirit, fighting and winning against opponents as strong as the Hulk himself. However, his internal turmoil and search for his identity never let him rest until he made his way to Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, where he ultimately found peace amongst the X-Men. Bucky Barnes. James Buchanan Bucky Barnes started off his journey as the typical sidekick. He was an ideal companion to Captain America, faithful and eager, coming to Steve's aid on multiple occasions. Their relationship was given even more depth in the live-action iteration of the character, where Bucky, a decorated war hero, almost plays off like a protective elder brother to the emaciated Steve. However, in both the comic and the films, things soon go wrong. Near the end of the war, Bucky is presumed to be dead after a particularly nasty enemy ambush. However, in reality, he is found by the Soviets and brainwashed into a remorseless assassin. Owing to the augmentations to his body, Bucky reached the peak of human strength and agility, comparable to that of his old pal, Captain Rogers in many ways. Bucky has enough strength to knock over a concrete wall with a single punch and enough speed to evade automobiles. In addition to this, he also comes with a cybernetic arm, which provides him numerous advantages in a battle. Despite his tormented past, Steve was eventually able to win back his old friend to the good side, although after numerous battles in the comics and a literal civil war in the MCU. Black Widow. Despite being heavily underrated, Natasha Romanoff is undoubtedly one of the most essential cornerstones of the Avengers. As a master spy, Natasha is not only an espionage, combat, and weapons expert, but can also mentally manipulate enemies into betraying information. As a graduate of the infamous Red Room run by Dr. Lumita Kudrin, she was also injected with a discount version of the Super Soldier Serum. Though not as efficient as the one produced by Dr. Erskine, Natasha was still granted considerable enhancements by this serum that puts her at the very peak of human performance. In combat, Natasha has not only held her own, but also defeated powerful enemies like the Winter Soldier and Elektra, owing to her lifelong training and irrefutable resourcefulness. Deathstroke. If there is one character from the DC Comics that has managed to hold his own against the Dark Knight in both physical confrontation and mental aptitude, it has to be the world's greatest mercenary, Slade Wilson, or Deathstroke. Wilson was first drafted into the U.S. Army as a teenager and reached the rank of lieutenant colonel due to his contributions during the Korean conflict. After some time, the decorated hero was approached by a medical program designed to make soldiers more resistant to truth serum. The program, however, turned out to be a failure and put Slade in a comatose state. After gaining consciousness, Slade soon discovered that his abilities had been augmented, making him capable of accessing almost 90% of his mental aptitude. This procedure provides Deathstroke with an enhanced physiology and intellect. Moreover, Slade is a certified genius when it comes to his mastery of martial arts and military tactics, to the point that he once took out the entire JLA roster single-handedly. Given his skills and notoriety, it's no surprise that Batman considers Slade to be one of the most complete threats he has ever faced. Master Chief. The Master Chief has to be one of the most iconic characters ever put inside a video game. Ever since he first appeared in Halo Combat Evolved, the Chief has been a fan favorite amongst audiences. His rough demeanor and no-nonsense style of operation have not only made him an irreplaceable part of gaming culture, but his influence has also permeated into other media like comics and live-action films. The Chief was born as John in the outer colony of Eridanos II, gifted with great physicality and impeccable luck. John was soon noticed by Dr. Halsey for the Spartan II program. John was abducted in the dead of night and replaced with a Flash clone set to die naturally in 6 months. Thus, John's parents forever remained oblivious to their child's true fate. As a part of the Spartan program, John received rigorous combat and military training along with physical modifications. These modifications turned John into a powerhouse, granting him enhancements like super strength, speed, and reflexes. Even his bones grew to nigh invulnerable density. Through his actions, John has established himself as the de facto leader of the Spartan regiment, and humanity can rest assured that the Master Chief is out there fighting the good fight. Sentry. The Sentry, or Robert Reynolds, is undoubtedly one of the strongest heroes on this list. Created by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee in the year 2000, Sentry is one of the more recent additions to Marvel's roster. When he was just a human being, Reynolds was a troubled individual, dealing with multiple mental issues like depression and even addiction. One day, Robert broke into a secret laboratory, hoping to get high, but instead, he ended up ingesting the Golden Sentry Serum, an experiment designed to recreate the effect of Captain Rogers' Super Soldier Serum. The Golden Sentry Serum, however, gave Reynolds an unprecedented amount of power, said to be equal to that of 1,000 exploding suns. In terms of strength, Sentry is one of the few people who has fought Galactus and lived to tell the tale. His powers include molecular manipulation, regenerative healing, photokinesis, and teleportation, amongst many others. However, the serum also brought to light a much darker side of Reynolds called the Void. The Void embodies all the negative aspects of Reynolds and is constantly engrossed in cataclysmic battles with the Sentry.
I don't like your tone.
Luke Cage. Born and raised on the streets of Harlem, New York, Cage has always been a hellraiser. Named Carl Earl Lucas at birth, he spent most of his childhood years causing trouble as a part of numerous juvenile gangs and crews. After being in and out of juvenile homes for most of his life, Cage eventually found himself locked away in the Seagate prison. It was during this period that Dr. Noah Burstein, the son of a disgraced Nazi scientist, reached the facility to carry out secret medical research. Lucas unwittingly volunteered and ended up immersed in an electro-biochemical system designed to work as a variant of Erskine's Super Soldier Serum. However, one of Lucas's enemies, a racist prison guard named Albert Rackham, tampered with the controls, hoping to kill the defenseless Lucas. However, this tampering caused a mutagenic change in Lucas's body, giving him powers like super strength and speed. In addition to this, it also made him damn near impossible to hurt. Throughout his adventures, Cage has walked off punches from the Hulk, TNT blasts, being lit on fire, and point-blank gunshots. Needless to say, Harlem is safe in his hands. Red Skull. The maniacal Nazi general Red Skull has always been Captain America's greatest nemesis. Ever since the two encountered each other in the World War, the Skull was born Johann Schmidt in a tiny village in Germany and displayed violent tendencies since he was a child. Eventually, he found his way to the Nazi forces and became a close confidant to Hitler. After performing various nefarious tasks for the genocidal chancellor, Red Skull was finally defeated by Captain Rogers at the end of the war. However, this was not the end. Presumed dead on multiple occasions, the Skull has always found a way to come back, sooner or later. Over the years, the Red Skull has also achieved near immortality through cloning procedures. So far, he has transferred his mind into bodies like a clone of Steve Rogers, which gave him identical skills to the Captain, and even a robot. Owing to his genius, the Red Skull has proven time and again why he is one of the greatest threats in the Marvel Universe. Bloodshot. Bloodshot was first introduced in Valiant Comics through Eterna Warrior, number 4 in 1992, but over the last couple of decades, the character has had various iterations, each with their own backstories and arcs. The most recent variant of Bloodshot was introduced in 2004, under the creative vision of Dwayne Swierczynski. Bloodshot is now nicknamed Everyman, a soldier who dies in battle only to be resurrected by nanites. It is implied that he is but another in a long line of super soldiers coming out of the Project Rising Spirit. The man believes himself to be a military officer named Ray Garrison, and often undertakes black ops missions at the behest of the government, owing to a special set of skills like enhanced strength, speed, regeneration, technopathy, and limited shapeshifting. Bloodshot has proven himself to be one of the most valuable assets in the government's arsenal. However, Bloodshot soon realizes that his memories are but a farce, implanted by his superiors to keep the superhuman soldier in check. Eventually, unsure of his very identity and unable to go on as a living weapon, Bloodshot goes AWOL, trying to find his own life outside of the military. Terminator. The Terminators are designed for one thing and one thing only: to kill. Created in the apocalyptic future by the AI Skynet, Terminators are essentially the machine's foot soldiers in their war against humanity. The very first ever introduced to the audience appeared in the 1984 film The Terminator, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Chronologically, Arnold's Terminator T-800 is said to be the very first one ever made and displayed remarkable feats of strength and endurance. Though originally an antagonist hell-bent on destroying humanity's only hope, Sarah Connor's child, the T-800 would eventually switch sides and join forces with the Connors to save the future. The T-800's strength lies not in its metal skeleton or superhuman endurance, but instead in its single-minded focus to chase its prey through hell and high water until one of them meets their end. T-1000 is a much more advanced version of the T-800 designed to accomplish the ever-evasive task of annihilating Sarah Connors and her child, John. However, unlike the T-800, the T-1000 is composed of liquid metal made from mimetic polyalloys, which can take any shape required for the circumstance. The T-1000 also has the ability to morph its body into numerous nondescript objects, like edged or blunt weapons. Its shape-shifting ability is so far advanced that it can also take the form of living organisms, making it extremely adept at espionage. As a nanomorph, the T-1000 can scan the molecular structure and composition of whatever it touches, and then mimic it. Over the years, the T-1000 has been universally accepted as one of the greatest villains to have ever graced the silver screen. The threat he constantly posed our protagonist can be gauged from the fact that it took the combined efforts of Sarah and John Connor, along with the T-800, just to slow it down. Thus, the T-1000 is certifiably the worst thing you could ever have chasing after you.
It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
U.S. Agent. The U.S. Agent, or John Walker, is a character that has fashioned his entire personality on the original super soldier, Steve Rogers. Both men dressed in stars and stripes hold deeply patriotic feelings and are decorated war heroes. The similarities, however, end here. Walker is essentially an embodiment of everything the good captain stands against. Mark Gruenwald, Walker's creator, aptly described U.S. Agent as a patriotic villain. For a brief period in both the comics and the TV show, Walker was deemed to be capable enough to uphold the mantle of the captain, but soon displayed his true colors and was stripped of the position. Yet, Walker still retains most of the powers we identify with Rogers, like peak physical performance and tactical aptitude. It is just that he utilizes them to commit almost fanatical acts in the name of the United States. As Walker himself put it once upon a time, if Uncle Sam wanted me to be Mickey Mouse, I'd still do it. Deathblow. Deathblow, or Michael Cray, was always destined to be a soldier. Born to a U.S. Navy admiral, Cray started his career as a highly skilled Black Ops operative and mercenary in the Wildstorm universe. During one of his missions for international operations, an unsuspecting Cray is exposed to the radioactive biochemical Gen Factor. Initially, Cray believed that the exposure had left him with a malignant tumor in his brain. But in reality, this was his powers beginning to manifest. Instead of cancer, Cray developed an uncanny ability to heal himself, so far beyond the normal humans that he is practically deemed immortal. His powers also allow him to create mental shields to block telepaths, though he can't really control it very well. Over the years, Deathblow has used his unique skills to defeat not only just human enemies, but literal corrupted beings of God, such as Exhale, the Dark Angel.
1 mutant or 100, they shall all bow before the great Soviet Empire.
Omega Red. Despite being a truly disturbing villain, Arkady Rossovich has one of the saddest backstories in all of comics. Born to Russian parents, he soon managed to drive them away as his mutation developed. Abandoned and alone, he joined the Russian army and committed ghastly atrocities across the globe. After his heinous crimes were eventually discovered, the Russian authorities sentenced him to be executed, but Arkady survived, thanks to his latent mutation, which piqued the interest of his superiors. Here on out, Arkady was actively involved in the Soviet Super Soldier program. As a result of this, he received enhancements that greatly enhanced his powers. The most remarkable of these were 2 carbonadium tentacles, which could be used as weapons and even had the capability of sucking out a foe's life force. Omega Red also secretes fatal spores which can kill most normal enemies and incapacitate even Wolverine.
And we need to know how.
I'm not gonna talk about it anymore.
Isaiah Bradley. There are some who are called heroes because of their actions. Then there are others, the ones who become heroes because of what they stood for. Isaiah Bradley, the Black Captain America, surely falls in the latter category. Isaiah was one of the first 300 African American soldiers who were used as bait in Camp Cathcart's attempt at the Super Soldier program. Bradley's last assignment as a super soldier was a suicide mission to end the German Super Soldier program. Before leaving, however, Bradley decided to wear the captain's famous stars and stripes and even carried his shield. This was seen as theft and treason by the Army, leading Bradley to serve 17 years in prison. In addition to incarceration, the imperfect formula also led his mental state to deteriorate rapidly and even made him sterile. The price he paid for serving his country was too high, but Isaiah's tale still remains one of the poignant depictions of racism in comic book history. Mockingbird. Bobbi Morse is one of those people who can do everything. Not only is she a genius biophysicist, but has also been actively involved with the SHIELD since a young age. While working as an apprentice under Dr. Wilma Calvin on her sabbatical research project, Bobbi discovers Calvin's top secret research to recreate the Super Soldier Serum. Here, she befriended Nick Fury and other SHIELD agents in charge of the project, impressing them through her intelligence and work ethic. Soon, she was recruited into the Secret Government Division and began training at SHIELD's spy school. She has also trained under her husband, Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, and has repeatedly proved herself to be a skilled spy and combatant, able to take on super-powered opponents much more powerful than her. She has also been injected with a functional combination of the Infinity Formula and the Super Soldier Serum by Nick Fury. This considerably enhances the Mockingbird's physical attributes and awakens her latent mental abilities, making her somewhat of a telepath. Talk about a multitasker. Nuke, aka Francis Frank Simpson. If there was ever an award for the most screwed up origin story, Marvel's Nuke would definitely be among the frontrunners. Francis wasn't born into poverty and misery like many of the characters on this list, but instead developed the cracks in his psyche through the continual abuse suffered at the hands of his alcoholic mother. Yearning for maternal love, the young Francis formed a special bond with his babysitter. The young woman, however, harbored great feelings for Francis's father and manipulated the young boy into murdering his own mother. Frank was then abducted by the Wolverine and inducted into the Weapon Plus project. As a test subject in the infamous Initiative, Frank received cybernetic enhancements that provided not only increased strength and speed, but also a second heart and vital functions that could be controlled by a remote control. He was soon drafted into the Vietnam War, where Frank was captured and tortured incessantly by the Wolverine. This ordeal is also what left him with deep stripe-like scars on his face. Owing to his fractured psyche, Frank is always a wild card in battle, and capable of unspeakable violence whenever he hears the trigger words, "No VC," implanted in his brain. His special physiology has allowed Frank to stand his ground against opponents like Captain America and the Wolverine. Nuke has also served the notorious crime boss Kingpin and managed to give Daredevil a really hard time. The Red Guardian. Shostakov, one of the Soviet Union's most decorated pilots, Alexei Shostakov was a decorated and well-known soldier in his own country, assigned the most dangerous missions because of his extraordinary skill. He soon turned into a national hero. Eventually, the KGB narrowed in on him to serve as a special operative and sneaked him off to become the Red Guardian. However, his training turned Shostakov into a violent and ruthless man. During his service, the Red Guardian exhibited a variety of skills such as prime athletic abilities and mastery of various forms of combat. In action, he carried a magnetic disc, which could be used to attack enemies and then return to them. Eventually, Shostakov would meet up with the Avengers and redeem himself by performing his duties one last time. Recently, the Guardian also got his live-action debut in 2021. The Destroyer, Marlowe. The Destroyer, or Kevin Marlowe, was once just a news correspondent reporting on WW2 from Nazi Germany. Stifled by the Propaganda Bureau directives in effect there, he found his voice being silenced. However, upon learning of Strom Prison, a site of brutal prisoner abuse, Marlowe breaks into the facility, but is caught by the authorities. Now incarcerated in the same prison he intended to report, Marlowe found himself sharing a cell with Eric Schmidt, developer of a super soldier serum. Just before dying of the ill treatment, Schmidt made Marlowe ingest the serum, granting him a body of peak physical perfection. Marlowe escaped the prison with his newfound powers and took up the mantle of Destroyer. Through the war, he used his powers to cut down Hitler's forces, most notably taking down Dr. Dragon and Hitler's only friend, von Moss the Manhunter. In his more recent appearances, Kevin Marlowe has grown old and retired as a superhero, but passed his legacy on to his sidekick, the Tourette, making him the new Destroyer. It is presumed that after a long and eventful life, Kevin lived his last days peacefully amongst his family. Jack Monroe. Jack Monroe, one of Captain America's lesser-known companions, has donned the avatars of Bucky, Scourge, and most recently Nomad. Jack was born on December 7, 1941, on the day of the Pearl Harbor attacks. Jack was a normal kid by all means, apart from the fact that he came from a town of Nazi sympathizers. After discovering a bunch of Nazi paraphernalia belonging to his father, Jack outed the disgusting secret to the FBI. This led the town to be put under investigation and the execution of Jack's parents. Over the years, Jack has proven himself to be a worthy sidekick with great expertise in military strategy and hand-to-hand combat. Though in the current comic landscape, he has been greatly overshadowed by the more popular Bucky Barnes. It is only a matter of time before we encounter Jack Monroe again. Doom Marine. The Doom Marine, the protagonist of the famed Doom franchise, serves as a playable character in both the original trilogy and Doom 64. He is originally a disgraced Marine from Earth who was discharged for assaulting his CO after the officer asked him to fire upon unarmed civilians. After being transferred to the UAC Phobos base, he ended up defending it from hordes of hell demons, gaining a nasty reputation in that department. However, upon returning home to Earth, he discovered that an even greater tragedy awaited him. His wife and kids were among the thousands killed by the demon attacks. This caused him to recede into a dark place and vow vengeance on the creatures that had taken his family from him. After centuries of fighting demons, the Doom Marine has far transcended the limits of human physiology. With his immense physical strength and conditioning, he is a true nightmare for all of Hell's legions. The Doomslayer, as he's often called, also possesses more intangible abilities like Argent Energy Absorption, which helps him to regenerate and gain powers whilst in battle. The true testament to his strength is that he even managed to kill Hell's greatest champion, the Titan, which turned him into the most feared being for all the demons that ever dare to step out of Hell. Khan Noonien Singh. The world of Star Trek has hardly ever seen a force as inherently evil as the Khan, a product of genetically engineered human augmentations. He was created sometime around 1959, an offspring of prime genetic specimens and encouraged selective breeding in hopes of improving the capabilities of the human race as a whole. It can be said that the Khan was raised with only one purpose: world domination. But unlike many others with the same goal, the Khan actually came pretty close, managing to gain control of more than a quarter of the Earth's population from 1992 to 1996. He is also one of the few augmented tyrants who made it through the eugenics war, owing to his genius-level intellect. When the Khan finally reappeared in the 23rd century, he was quickly recognized by the occupants of the USS Enterprise as the best of the tyrants. The danger this displaced tyrant poses to our heroes can be gauged by the fact Spock himself declared him to be the most dangerous adversary they ever faced. Owing to his success as a character, Khan was also the central villain when the franchise was rebooted by J.J. Abrams in the early 2000s, and was portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch. Major America. Major America likes to be known as Anti-Cap, a pretty comprehensive name, considering that an antithesis of Captain America is what he truly is at his core. Anti-Cap was a pretty normal teenager until the death of his girlfriend in the Oklahoma City bombings. After this tragedy, Anti-Cap developed a deep-rooted anger toward everyone he deemed a terrorist. This led him to the U.S. Army in search of an outlet for his fathomless anger. He was rejected because of his frail physique, but the government approached him to take part in a naval intelligence project to recreate the super soldier serum. The project appeared to be a failure when, after repeated doses of the drug, Anti-Cap still didn't exhibit any superhuman capabilities. To keep the experiment secret, his superior, Admiral Jimmy Westbrook, shot him in cold blood. This action kick-started the drug, providing Anti-Cap with immense physical capabilities and enhancements. For over 2 years, Anti-Cap wreaked havoc in war zones like Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq in the name of God and country, until he was finally stopped by the real captain.
Big boy.
Jax, Mortal Kombat. Major Jackson Briggs, or Jax, is one of the most easily recognizable characters from the hit game Mortal Kombat. Jax is a cybernetically augmented soldier with 2 metallic arm implants, which provide him with enough strength to rip his enemies apart, limb from limb. His combat experience and tactical expertise make him an extremely capable leader and combatant. His list of powers is just as long as his accomplishments, as Jax likes to stay up to date with the latest technology. His arms carry various weapons and tools such as portable missiles, energy enhancers, nanokinetic metamorphation, and a piston-like mechanism for maximum impact. Jax is currently serving as the leader of the Outer World Investigation Agency, an Earthrealm Special Forces unit. I guess the next time we need a hand or two, it's pretty obvious whom we are calling. Marvelous verdict. We have finally come to the end of this very long list, a comprehensive overview of the best super soldiers to have ever graced the comic page or the silver screen. Despite their varying levels of power and popularity, it is clear that audiences collectively love super soldiers. Therefore, it is likely that we will see many more such characters as time goes by. What do you think of the list? Are you tired of the trope, or do you wish there were more of them? Are there some super soldiers that we missed? Please let us know in the comments below. Also, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you such marvelous content. That's it for now, and see you next time.